Hi. Oh my gosh. So today has been a great day, and I decided that in honor of Rob and I would just make the notes for this one purple. Because 11-day honeymoon just wasn't enough. Hi, if you're new here, I'm Cozy. I like to snark on Sister Wives here on YouTube. I do want to remind you this video is for entertainment purposes only. These are not facts, they're just my opinions about public figures sharing their lives publicly on television. Cool? Cool. Okay, so you're gonna hear some shuffling about. Graham is trying to be good boy and sleep, but every time that I get loud, I wake him up and I feel bad. Hi. Okay, so it is honeymoon special time, and this episode was always one of those ones that kind of breezed past because I just don't care. I just wasn't invested in their little honeymoon getaway vacation, and maybe it's because I didn't get a honeymoon, and so on rewatch, I'm always like, whatever, what do I care? Like, we went away for one night to a city that's not that far from where we lived at the time. Um, and so, I don't know, maybe that's part of it. Maybe it's jealousy. Maybe it's just that I don't want to sit there and watch Robin defend herself over and over and over again about how she so needed this time, because the arguments are weak at best. Like, just saying. But with that in mind, and noting that we are watching this through season 18 goggles, we'll get into the really needed 11 days. Sorry, not 18. So, Robin and Cody decide to go to San Diego for their honeymoon, and the suite that they have is actually quite lovely. I really like the muted colors the hotel chose. It's like this really dusky coral color on the walls, and then there's greens and blues for the accent colors. It's actually really kind of pretty. Not colors I would have put together myself, but I like it. Very calming, very comfortable. Dare I say, very cozy. But Robin's like, this is our little honeymoon nest, and then like giggles at Cody, who's like, it's been a really long wait. And yes, guys, thank you. We get the implications. You can stop. What are you doing, sir? Anyway, so they say it's been super easy on their honeymoon, and Cody's like, I think that the long wait created this good building block for our relationship, and overall, that wait wasn't that long. And that's coming from someone who married their husband almost a year to the day that we met, okay? So if I'm saying it wasn't that long, it probably wasn't. But Robin's like, our alone time is finally, we have license, and we did it right. And I'm like, okay. They keep stressing this chaste courtship over and over and over again, and how long 10 months has been. But frankly, we know a lot of the Sister Wives fan community does not believe that the courtship was as chaste as they claimed, number one. And we also know that they didn't really do it right because Christine was super upset about the kiss. Well, probably the multiple kisses, frankly. And Cody shares that most polygamists court for about 60 to 90 days and then get married because it's really difficult for the existing wives, says Robin. And this seems to hold pretty well with the Brown family because Janelle and Christine did enter the marriage pretty quickly after their courtships. So the question becomes, then, do we think that the transition of adding Robin would have been different if the courtship had been shorter versus longer? I did make a short about this, but I know not everybody watches shorts. So I really want to get some opinions. Do we think that it would have changed anything? Would this have had an impact on the Brown family? Would there have been less chance for resentment to grow to the different rules for Robin? Or would it have been exactly the same because Cody and Robin just are who they are? So she goes on to say that watching their husband be in love with another woman he isn't married to has to be really difficult. And she does point out that it's also super difficult because when you're in that circumstance, anybody could walk away at any time. You can just say, I'm sorry, this isn't going to work for me, and walk away. And you're right, the wives would be affected because if you're putting time, effort, and energy into creating a relationship with somebody, anticipating that they're going to be your sister wife, or bare minimum anticipating they're going to be your friend, and something breaks up, there's no guarantees they're going to remain your friend, number one, but they're definitely not going to be your sister wife. So Cody says that in his experience of doing things, things always change with a new wife. Because she's in the wives club now, and wives are comfortable with another wife, it should be A-okay. And are they though? Because Mary didn't seem super comfortable with Janelle coming in, or Christine, really. And Christine was obviously uncomfortable with Robin. And at various points, Janelle has made conversations where she said, well, I was kind of uncomfortable with everybody. So, I don't know. everybody has their feelings and everybody has their time and place for their feelings, and that's perfectly acceptable. But I think Cody's got an optimism here that we haven't seen from him in a really long time, but it seems a little bit short-sighted and built more on worrying about fulfilling his own needs and happiness than fulfilling everyone else's. But on the couch, Robin, of course, says she specifically had her mom take care of the kids, but that Mary called and said, "We miss the kids, can we see them?" And we often bring up how separate Robin has kept herself and her kids from everyone else. So wouldn't this have been the perfect opportunity to integrate just a little bit more? At bare minimum, the girls, if Dayton's uncomfortable with the chaos and the change and needs his own routine. But I think that this highlights just how little Robin trusted the other wives from the word go. It's my opinion, but her word choice here, where I specifically asked my mom, okay, why? And I need to point out through the season 18 goggles at this point that it was Mary that called to have to remind Robin that, hey, we might want to hang out with these kids so that they can, be a part of the family. Just like Mary had to point out to Robin that, hey, you need to call me sometimes. That Robin just sort of keeps her at arm's length. And we heard Jen say that on the talkback, where she was like, hey, Robin kind of doesn't hang out with you. In the wives' interview, Mary's like, I thought it would be fun to keep Robin's kids for a little bit while she's gone. And I'm really still stuck on this being the concept of like a single family unit. And the idea that if they are one family and all of these women are mothers, you would specifically keep your kids separate. Like, I'm really hung up on that. And I didn't realize, I knew it started early on, but I didn't realize the division in the family really started from literal day one. Like, I never paid that much attention to that fact early on. Probably because we hadn't seen everything we've seen up to this point. But also, all the women are on the couch wearing purple, and I don't really love it because I feel like purple's been ruined for me, but I almost sort of feel like maybe it was sort of a, hey, you wouldn't let us wear purple to the wedding, we're wearing purple now. Though, once again, I will die on the hill that Mary's dress was eggplant purple. And Christine shares that it's really hard to have Cody gone on a honeymoon because this is way different than an anniversary trip. And Mary's like, it's 11 days they're gone together. And Janelle jumps in and she's like, I'm not sure what's acceptable, but 11 days is ridiculous. And she is angry through this entire episode. And I am really, really with her with this because, like I said, husband and I got away for one night overnight and we didn't go very far. I keep telling myself that if YouTube goes well and I can put away a little bit of my YouTube money, that in 3 years, when we've been married for 10 years, I would really like to get to go on like a do-over honeymoon. But even then, we have kids, we have pets. I'm with Janelle. 11 days would not be acceptable at all. Heck, I'll be lucky if we get maybe 3. So Janelle keeps talking about how she's angry. And she's like, I had trouble reconciling this illogical thing where I have no issue with Robin. I have no issue with her marriage, but I am super angry. The thing is, it's not illogical. You can like someone and you can welcome their presence in your life without needing to say, I can't be angry at you for an obvious unfairness. And the obvious unfairness being an 11-day honeymoon. Listen, each of the other women got a couple-day-long road trip prior to any children being born. Robin gets 11 days when there are multiple children and everyone else is trying to take care of an entire family. And Cody is off gallivanting on what feels like a very real honeymoon. I am not saying a road trip isn't a real honeymoon. I am going to go over what they talk about with their road trips shortly. But imagine if your husband, boyfriend, fiance, whatever the case might be, significant other of any capacity says, hey, listen, I want to go off for a week and go on a vacation alone. And then you turn around later and you ask for the exact same thing. Hey, listen, I want to go on this vacation alone. I want to do this. And he says, no, you need to be here for XYZ thing. It's kind of the same concept. So Christine jumps in and she's like, whoa, it is totally logical to be angry. But Mary tries to middle ground everything and is like, for the past 6 months, there have been a lot of emotions, both positive and negative. And she's like, my biggest issue is just missing Cody. If I have to be honest, I don't think that's entirely honest. I think that she is probably deeply hurt that Robin didn't ask her to watch the children so that everyone could bond and get to know each other. And I base that opinion off of two things. The fact that Mary was the one who called, and we know that she deeply cares for and loves Robin's kids. And so I think it probably, truly deep down, did hurt her. But for some reason, when we come back to Cody and Robin, they are imitating Joey from Friends. How you doing? But it's poor. It seems super weird because they're not in New York City, but in California. But hey, do you? We get more of a discussion of how chaste this courtship was. And the more they talk about it, the less believable it becomes. I know you guys probably know people in your life that the more somebody says something, the less you believe them. So Robin's like, listen, if you kept a high moral standard, if he keeps a high moral standard, every subsequent wife, you expect him to keep that high moral standard. Now listen, it is my opinion entirely based on the kisses shared and my questions of where did Cody stay when he was visiting Robin 5 hours away, that I don't think he held himself to the same standard with Robin as he did with Christine. So when Robin specifically says, when you're the last wife, I'm not going to agree with her. If memory serves me from the book, Cody kissed Janelle before they were married, so it makes sense for it to not bother her. But his courtship with Christine was essentially one date on which he proposed and then immediately left for another state while she planned a wedding. So there really wasn't much room to flub things up, but yeah. This makes the water super muddy because it's clear to me personally that I think Cody really did choose Christine simply as a way to add some name recognition to his family and to keep Mary and Janelle from fighting with each other. I think that was really his opportunity to take on someone who truly cared for him that maybe he wasn't as excited about, that he thought could help him in some way, shape, or form. But that makes it hard to determine who is in the right, because he didn't treat everybody equally from the beginning. And I want to be like, no, Robin's clearly at fault. But I'm struggling to fault her for Cody not doing his duty and failing to maintain a consistency throughout his courtship of every subsequent wife who's entered the family. All that being said, I really do care exactly zero to hear them talk about whatever it was they were doing on the honeymoon that cameras couldn't be involved with. Just saying. So Janelle's like, listen, the rules are very strict for a married man who's courting, almost Victorian from her perspective. And she says that's coming from, the LDS where things are not quite like that. And Christine's like, listen, I'm much more comfortable with Cody and Robin now that they're married. And Mary's like, it sounds like we don't trust Cody, which honestly, I couldn't personally blame them if they didn't. But she says it isn't a distrust. She does agree that it is different for some reason. But Robin says when they get married, they believe they're going to be committed to each other for eternity. All 5 adults plus the children. And Cody's like, it's this deep spiritual bond that transcends the world. And in any way you turn it, God is involved. I am going to dive a little bit into biblical perspective here because this is religious polygamy that we're talking about. And I oftentimes do not hear anybody, and I think a lot of the folks that we hear from in the Sister Wives community tend to be from a secular community, so maybe this would be interesting to you guys, maybe it won't, that's fine. But there is no definitive biblical answer on whether or not marriage is maintained in heaven. There are a lot of varying answers in different Christian sects that vary from marriages will no longer be considered if they were considered a forced marriage. So anything that was a forced marriage is no longer a bond in heaven. Or a marriage will continue based off the phrasing of Christ's words that say we will neither marry nor be given in marriage in heaven. But that it doesn't invalidate marriages prior. And some others will believe that the marriage bonds are entirely going to cease to exist because there's no heavenly need for them. All in all, I struggle with what I think the true answer is because I would really like to believe that my grandparents who have passed have been reunited in death. I would like to believe that eventually my parents will be that way and that my husband and I will as well. So for me, it's a huge struggle because I have no specific scripture to turn toward that gives me an exact answer. So when Cody says this, I struggle to find the truth in it or find comfort in his words that their belief is, the overarching truth. And I know that Latter-day Saints and myself have very different beliefs regarding what happens in the afterlife, so I'm not attempting to poke fun at anybody. I just want to highlight how vastly different it is from a more, for lack of a better word, mainstream Christian belief. I understand that the mainstream Mormon church would be often considered mainstream in certain circles. So not attempting to make light of anybody, just highlighting some differences since we don't often hear that perspective from people. But the wives on the couch talk about their honeymoons, all of which seem to be a road trip to Wyoming to Cody's family. And as they're talking and agreeing on how vastly similar it was, oh yeah, I got about 4 days on a trip to Wyoming. Oh yeah, I got like 4 days on a trip to Wyoming. Oh, I got 4 days on a trip to Wyoming. Guys, this wasn't a honeymoon. You were moving. You were just moving to Wyoming. Because every single one was like, oh yeah, we drove to Cody's family and that's where he lived. Like, baby girls, you moved to Wyoming. They all are like, Cody's super fly by the seat of his pants kind of guy. And I can't say that's really changed at all. Janelle's the only one who expresses a dislike for the road trip honeymoon idea. She literally says, ew. That came out very Schitt's Creek, but yeah. So they do defend the idea that it's only in recent years that Cody's learned to take a vacation. And I suppose that can be really true because some people really struggle to relax a lot more than others, and I just don't quite know how to take a fun vacation. Cody doesn't strike me as that guy. He strikes me more as the kind of guy who doesn't think to make a plan and then just sort of throws something together last minute. Not that he can't figure out how to relax. And it is here where I'm like, oh, I get it. I know what it means a professional, just someone who has dealt with that for a lot of years. I could be undiagnosed ADHD because that's my problem. It's diagnosed now, but it wasn't then. And so Mary's like, listen, we struggle with the fact that Robin got a bigger, better reception, a bigger, better honeymoon, but she justifies it by saying that we're all different people. That is not quite it. While I'd really rather prefer to believe that Cody just prefers Robin and that's the end of the story, it is probably the show. They wanted footage of something more exciting than a 4-day road trip to Wyoming. Did it need to be 11 days? No. They probably could have done it in 5, let them film for 1 or 2, and had a similar amount of time to everyone else, just for themselves, like all the other wives did, come home and been fine. Janelle says something interesting here, though, and she's like, I don't think Cody would have given me 11 days. So she doesn't think that she was worth those 11 days to Cody before, is the implication that I take. Mary echoes saying that for a 20-year anniversary, we've been together for 20 years, I got 3 days. And you can see her body language shift as she's like, I got 3 days. Like, she's upset about it. And she's like, I want to feel just as special as everyone else in his life. And she goes on to say that when she compares, even though she knows she shouldn't, that it doesn't make her feel as important. Of course it doesn't. And the fact is that when you're in a relationship like this, whether you shouldn't compare, you're always going to. There is no equity in the televised version of Cody's polygamy, in my opinion. I will not speak for what happened before or what happened off camera, because how are we to know? But what we see is so singularly biased to one wife. I feel comfortable saying, in my opinion, we don't see any equity on television. So back in San Diego, Cody's like, this is the perfect time to learn to surf. And sure, you're right by an ocean. Yeah, that would make sense. There's not 20 other people here struggling to learn and making it more difficult. But he says Robin is super intimidated by it, which really is not what she says when she's telling us that she's willing to die trying, having a blast. I have never been willing to die trying anything that I can think of, so I'm not sure I would describe that feeling as having a blast. That's fine, though. On the couch, Cody tells us that before he even told Robin about wanting to learn to surf, she had it on her life list, which most of us would refer to as a bucket list. This is where Cody does his insane flexing thing for the camera, and Robin is laughing because she's like, when the wives gave me this survival kit, The ladies warned me he is always flexing in front of mirrors, and it's obviously true. So back at the house, everyone's getting ready to go on a picnic, and Christine says, you would think it would be easier to just go out on a picnic, but it's not. So Maddie, very deadpan, tells the camera, we're going on a picnic. And Janelle's like, no matter what the moms suggest, the teenage girls always think it's lame. Cut back to now a very over-the-top Maddie, who's like, we're going on a picnic. And you're like, okay. I really want to know, though, why is she dressed like she's either joining a pirate crew or a biker gang? And being entirely fair, I probably would have dressed the same way at that age. And I would still ask that question to myself today. So Mary's got some of the younger kids at her house, and she's having them help to load up the picnic basket. Meanwhile, there is chaos with teenagers in Christine's house, as she is begging Maddie to please stop texting people and help. And Janelle appears to be alone in her kitchen, where she shares that she's having a really rough week. She shares on the couch why that is, and it's because she perceives the time with Robin is time that's being taken away from the greater family, and her frustration is 11 days where his focus is on one person. This 11 days issue overarches the entire episode. Now, poor Christine has all the kids trying to collect things up and get into the car, but Logan has to be the adult voice of reason who's like, everybody get a coat. The car loading chaos consists mostly of asking various small children if they need to use the bathroom before they go, and trying to determine which one of the teenagers is currently carrying Truly. They show us that Cody and Robin are attempting to surf, and Robin explains that she thinks she's going to die, but she doesn't care because this is on her life list. And she says, if you can't die about your life list, what can you die for? And about the only thing I can convincingly tell you I would die for is my children. That's it. After a commercial break, Cody and Robin are headed to the San Diego Animal Park, a place that seems to inspire Cody to get very handsy for some reason. And listen, my love language is physical touch, but even I would be like, dudes, chill out. This is a family-friendly environment. So Cody and Robin go on this little safari tour, and the guy decides to tell them about the animal courtship rituals, since they're on their honeymoon. And Robin's like, the guy didn't know we were polygamists. Well, if this was set up by production, I would bet they'd have some sort of inkling. Also, Cody can't shut up about it. Not overtly, but he makes a lot of commentary. So Robin's like, look, it was really cute. And she starts to say something about Cody, and he's like, it's just dawning on me that a lot of animals in the animal kingdom practice polygamy. Okay, sure, I guess. But most animals don't mate for life, so is that the correct word for it? I don't know. They say they get to learn about the rhinos, needing a larger group of female rhinos for reproducing because they prefer to raise their young all together, which is kind of a neat thing about rhinos, and explains a lot about why rhinos bred in captivity often have a more difficult time. Of course, Cody can't help himself but to ask if the rhinos all cycle together, and making comments about how that must be awful. Back to the picnic in the mountains. It is underway, and Janelle is in her element. She's explaining to the little girls that the river is way too cold because the snow is coming down off the mountain. Please don't play in it. And she's selecting their picnic site based off of the wind factor and where the mountain, blocks the most of it. It just seems to be so her in her element, and I love it. So Logan says to Mary, did we bring wood? And Mary's like, are you serious? And Logan's like, are you serious? Does any of this look dry? And I'm like, I'm with Logan. Everything is very wet. But at the same time, I can't entirely fault Mary. How was she to know if things were going to be completely wet? Unless she knew the weather. On the couch, the women are all talking about how well the kids are fitting together. And we see McKelty playing with Brianna. And Janelle's like, maybe it's because the kids are so close in age. And that's probably it, partly. Kids at that age tend to make friends really easily and often play with a variety of different children for any length of time. And Mary's like, the kids have been very accepting of each other and are happy to have each other in their lives. Back with Robin and Cody, they're going ziplining, and I just feel the anxiety rising in me watching them. I am not great with these kinds of adventures. But then it happens. Guys, he says a thing. He says it. How many of us remembered this honeymoon special when Cody says, I have 4 wives. Nothing scares me but poverty. I could have sworn the only time I'd ever heard him say it was when he yelled it at Suki during that stupid tell-all, but 14 years before that, he's saying it on a honeymoon special. So I don't know. He's using it to justify why he can do these dangerous stunts. And maybe I'm a worrywart because I'm a mom, but this would be off the list. I am not bringing myself to risk anything that could go completely wrong and not be here with my babies, fur or otherwise. And Christine's with me when she's like, this would make me ill. But Mary's like, oh no, it'd be a lot of fun. And I know everybody has a different tolerance for adventure, but I feel like mine went out the window the moment that I gave birth. Just saying. So Cody, of course, feels drawn to the lions because he's like, they're natural polygamists, like man. And I'm going to vehemently disagree with the idea that man is a natural polygamist because we have a higher consciousness than most animals in the animal kingdom, and the drive to reproduce in the human species is not the same as the animal kingdom's drive to produce, where men generally do not care for their young. But sure, dude, go off, because Cody says, the lion only has two. He's got nothing on me. At the picnic, Logan has taken over the cooking of all the meat that they have brought, and the wives are like, this is usually Cody, but so far it doesn't look like Logan set anything on fire, so he's already doing better than his dad. And at one point, someone fumbles a burger patty, and it winds up on the ground, and Logan's like, you're eating that. Which sounds like a super older brother thing to say, and it looks like it's poor Aspen who is supposed to eat the mud burger. The wives discuss how responsible that Logan is, and as the oldest child, I get it. I have a fair amount of siblings, not a ton, but a decent amount. And so they talk about how they prefer to treat the teens more like young adults, asking them to take some responsibility, showing that they are, more responsible, but balancing it with being able to go out and do different things, which is a tactic that can go either way. Too much responsibility and you feel like you never got to be a child. Too little and you run the risk of not being equipped with the skills that you need when you move out of your parents' home. There's a sweet spot you have to find where they're able to cook and clean, but they still feel like they got to enjoy childhood. And here is a thing that's going to be very controversial because I debated on whether or not to even talk about this scene. It has been talked about at length in the Sister Wives community, and I just wanted to give a little bit of perspective in a different vein, I think, to Peyton being upset that Aurora took his seat. A lot of people go back and forth about it. I don't know how much good it's going to do to drag it out, but this is my thoughts as someone who's a product of the 90s and has kids herself. Would a sibling or a cousin have argued with me about sitting in their chair? Yes. Would they have potentially gotten close to my face, pointed in my face, maybe gotten loud? Absolutely they would have. Would I have responded the exact same way as Aurora, as there are a ton of chairs, and then just ignoring the individual? Sure would. That's what I would have done. For me, that's not even the point. Logan was the one who had to step in and say, there are a ton of chairs, give up, go sit somewhere else. And even though Peyton whined about it, that was Logan who stepped in. It should have been one of the moms who stepped in and was like, you need to leave her alone, go sit in a different chair. My kids argue over spots on the couch all day long. And yeah, they yell at each other, it get loud. We step in to make sure that it doesn't escalate. Kids are going to argue, kids are going to yell. They don't always treat each other with kindness, love, and respect. But it is the parents' responsibility to correct those issues as they come up. Today, one of my children yelled at the dog because she felt like the dog was sitting in a seat that she wanted to be in. And even then, I was like, you need to pick another chair. You need to not be screaming at other people or animals in this house and treat people the way that you want to be treated. Not that hard. So that's my take on that. At the picnic site, Mary shares that she and Cody have had a lot of ups and downs. So that's why she chose to focus on him. And she feels like they need to focus on each other to get that relationship back to right. And she says she's a much better relationship with the entire family when she and Cody are in a good place. She admits that when she's angry at him, she detaches from her relationships in the greater family, and that's proven out by her behavior later in the catfish era, when she feels like she can't talk to anyone. And Janelle's like, I'm so impressed to hear you discuss your relationship so logically, a word that is clearly a favorite of her because she says it all the time. And she's like, you were never that way before. And Christine's like, you're evolving so well. And Mary's like, can you validate me for wanting my life to center around Cody? And Janelle says, yes, because that's where she's at too. And I'm like, that's not how you... That is a snore. Good goodness. And that's not really how you use the word validate, but all right. And Christine seems shocked when Janelle says that she is right there with Mary, where she feels like her world revolves around Cody. And Janelle's like, it's true. I was detached for years and years, but not now. And I suppose that now, looking back, it makes sense she would have an easier time separating from Cody than some of the other wives would, because she says she spent that time detached from him. And Mary's like, I felt like you've always been really independent, Janelle, which I think is a great thing. And in a lot of ways it is, because I'm a very independent person too. I actually have had to learn how to depend on my husband. He's an acts of service kind of guy, so when I just barrel through and do everything by myself, it actually hurts his feelings quite a bit. And Janelle's like, I've always been less needy. And Mary's like, well, I've always been more needy. And Christine's like, I'm right in the middle. I don't know if that's true, but sure. Cody's like, this honeymoon has been a lot of fun. And they've been able to spend a lot of time talking and not worrying about when he has to be home. And he kind of makes this like little smirk there. And it's clear, sir, because no one wanted you gone for 11 days. So you didn't worry about when you had to be home. And Robin's like, it's the little things you can't do together until you're married, like brushing your teeth. So I'm going to have to call all of my friends and siblings and let them know that we were never supposed to brush our teeth together. Robin's like, it's hard to express how this honeymoon's been because we have 3 beautiful ladies back home that we need to be sensitive to. And Cody's like, I've been insensitive. I need to be better. Correct. Janelle's like, you can always tell when Cody's coming to the end of a vacation because he starts to freak out a little bit. And they talk about how Cody feels like he's coming up against these like mental landmines, these mental and emotional landmines. And I do know how that feels because I get anxiety at the end of the vacations because you just never know what you're coming home to or what's next. Janelle's like, he runs into these emotional landmines, and I assume that that means because when he goes on a vacation, it sounds like he goes on a vacation strictly with one wife, not necessarily all of the kids, and most of the vacations tend to be anniversary trips. So when he gets home, he has the rest of the wives and children to return to, and you just don't know what you're walking into when you walk through that door. Mary says that she's tried to give him the advice to just be present and fill that emotional bank account with each of them. And Christine bursts out with how stupid it is that she feels like she's constantly worrying about when he's going to be around. She's like, it's ridiculous to feel this way. And Mary's like, no, it's not. And Christine's like, no, it is. Mary's like, you need that connection with Cody too. And Christine's like, I just want to be more independent like Janelle. And she goes on to say, it's not like our world revolves around him. But it sounds like it does. And Mary's like, but why not? He's the glue that holds this family together. So why wouldn't it revolve around him? And that is crazy to think about. Is Cody the glue? Because I guess you could say things started to break apart when he began favoring Robin, and so the glue weakened and it broke. But I think the glue might have been Christine. She really did the most as far as parties, family events, making sure everybody got together from what we see. And when she finally pulled back for real and left, things started going really, really wrong. But sometimes it feels like this family was held together by off-brand school glue anyway, and that it just doesn't last that long. It's interesting that Janelle sort of agrees with Christine how things can't revolve around Cody, though. She points out that whenever she has a new baby, Cody is sort of in the periphery. And Christine agrees, yeah, I have truly. And Mary's like, you have your new focus, he has his. And I am not a fan of that logic because it sort of makes it sound like a baby is just the responsibility of the wife, and indirectly implies that Truly isn't as important or special as Robin to Cody. I know that's not what she intended. That's the implication it gives. So Mary shares that Robin had told her that while she and Cody were away on their 20-year trip to Mexico, Robin had felt so bad that Cody didn't call her because that phone call is how you connect. Okay. She got 3 days. I bet 2 of them were travel time. Okay. So it appears that prior to this, the implication I'm getting from this is that Cody would focus his attentions on whoever he was with. So whoever he was with on the trip, that's where his entire focus was. I am not a sister wife, and some of you may have seen my recent short about it. But I can get jealous if husband is calling or texting somebody when he's supposed to be focused on me. Let's say we're out on a date and his D&D group starts texting him and he suddenly starts and giggling about whatever they're talking about. I would be genuinely a little bit hurt that he had shifted his focus so quickly elsewhere. So I could see before where they would expect that the energy would be put into that one person to fix that focus time. And I kind of see this as an extension of the criticism that I've given Robin before for interrupting wives' time. Because I'm really put off that it sort of feels like she's guilting Mary into sharing her time with that phone call. I could be wrong. I could be entirely wrong. Maybe the woman got more time or I don't know. I still feel like she got 3 days and 2 of them were travel time. But you couldn't go 3 days, Robin. Not 3 days. Send a text. He'll answer it when he has time. He's in a different country. And Robin's like, I made it a point to have him call the wives while we were away. And the wives discuss how he's calling home more often. And Christine says he's talked to me for longer. And Janelle thinks that Cody is evolving. For people who definitely would be creationists, it's interesting how much they use the word evolve. And no judgment there. Robin's like, I think when you're in this situation, your emotions get the better of you. I would have to say in this scenario, it looks like it's just Robin feeling like that she was creating crazy stories in her head. The other women seem fairly content that he focused on them during their short vacations and not focused on everything else. It sounds like they were able to communicate with him if there was an urgent need, so I'm not sure this should have been an issue. I think she really just wanted to get Cody to call her daily, and this was the way that she could make it happen. If she can get everyone thinking that it's normal for him to cut focus and call everyone else and say, she can just go, well, I'm just in the rotation for him to call. And if she can then, she says, if you can call them and say, I love her, I'm on a honeymoon with her, but I also love you and I want to connect with you. It'll help make them feel more secure. I really hope that's not what he actually said, because that would not make me feel secure at all. I would not respond well to that. Maybe it's just what she's hoping for them to get out of it, but please don't say those exact words. Janelle's like, listen, it's been a rough week because my emotional swings have been all over the place. She's like, it's not jealousy because I do love Robin and I'm still excited about this. She's like, the first few days I was super angry with Cody and I would not answer his calls. So it's been a bad week. He's like, I took an hour the day before and I called home and I could not get a hold of Janelle. And Janelle admits to ignoring his calls for 3 days. And I want to hear a little bit more about that, but we're not going to. She says he had to call 5 or 6 times in a row before she would even pick up the phone. And he said all the right things, which sounds like he just knows what to say to get out of the doghouse without actually meaning it. But that might be not what she means. She says it's okay now. And maybe she should have taken his call earlier so she wouldn't have to stew about it for 5 days. And Christine kind of gives her an I told you so sort of thing. And Janelle's like, listen, a lot of people wouldn't get that I choose this and we live in this compressed emotional experience. And Cody's like, listen, when a new wife comes in, things have to change for the better. So I have to be better. And he goes on to say that since Robin knows this, she can be like, you need to grow up, dude. Why is that for Robin to do? You couldn't just grow up and be better for your family on your own? I don't know. And this is also where he says, so we start giving them what they're asking for. And all this we business, I hope you mean the mouse in your pocket, because I thought the wives were supposed to stay out of each other's relationships with you. Just saying. But she just confirmed that it's important for her to feel connected when he is with other wives. Once again, going back to the whole thing where I think she just wants to be in a daily phone call rotation. The moms are getting the kids to bed back at home, and I am dying laughing at the Twilight poster in the teenage girls' room at Christine's house. But also the very deep blue sponge painted walls. This just tells me I'm right. Christine's house has not been renovated since the 90s, because that sponge paint thing was huge. That everybody you knew, maybe not everybody, but at least somebody you knew probably had a sponge painted beige wall somewhere in their house in the 90s. I guarantee it. In fact, I will tell you this, my mom did not have a sponge painted beige wall. My mom sponge painted apples onto her wall because, once again, apples, what did we say it was? Apples, geese, sunflowers, and Tuscan grapes. That was it. That was the 90s. That was the whole thing. So, Cody says that the 7 days that Janelle didn't speak to him were very difficult. And Janelle had said before it was 3, and then she said 5. And now we're up to 7. She was angry. She did not want to answer that call. But on the couch, when she's talking about it, she's like, I'm still angry about it. And maybe I'm not processing it fully. They discuss how their relationship, Cody and Janelle, was originally pretty platonic. But because while they were husband and wife, they were best friends at the core of it. And Cody remembers that they had reached this place where they could just talk very openly with one another, but they weren't romantic. And Janelle's like, it wasn't hearts and flowers and giggles. I'd had that in relationships before, just not with Cody. And Cody's like, I always wanted more romance with Janelle. And now he thinks she sees him being more romantic with Robin, and she thinks she's missing out. Janelle's like, it has nothing to do with romantic differences in our relationships. I felt more like I just didn't have a place anymore. So Cody's like, you're not being replaced. I'm not marrying another Janelle. You'll always be my best friend. No, they are not having these conversations on the couch together. They are two separate things. So Janelle's like, we can talk for hours about anything. And that's kind of sad to hear now, because we know that that's not been the case in the breakdown in recent years. And Christine's like, I'm jealous of that dynamic. Cody has never seen me as an intellectual. He doesn't talk to me for hours, even now. And Mary's like, I see the relationship that Cody has with everyone else, and it can be really hard to see what's special about yourself. Now all the kids are back to bed at home, and Cody calls during what is clearly daytime hours. And Robin's busying herself in the bathroom, putting lotion on her hands, and it's got to be a little bit awkward to hear him call and have this conversation with Mary, because it's awkward for us to hear him call and have this conversation with Mary, because this man says, that was fun on the texting last night, and my millennial soul is just screaming, okay, boomer! This whole thing is so awkward, because Mary is saying nothing, and he's talking in unclear language for some reason. I don't know whose benefit that is, but the conversation barely lasts a couple of minutes, and Mary's like, so soon, when he says he has to go, and he's like, yep, bye! So Robin and Cody get back from their honeymoon, and they say they're looking forward to this new normal. And Cody's like, I'm going to make dinner while the wives go off shopping. And Truly is getting snuggles from her siblings. Christine's showing off some pictures she had done, and she is precious. Truly is so adorable. But this is where we hear from Robin about the phone call between Christine and Robin. Now, mind you, we really only get this as Robin relays it from her perspective. And she's like, Christine was in tears asking me if I really needed the 11 days. And of course Robin says she did. And Christine tells the other women on the couch, because they're having separate interviews, that the 11 days were necessary. And when she really thinks about it, that's sad. Okay, I don't see how. I don't see how she needed 11 days, and I don't see how it was sad. But okay. Janelle's like, Cody tailors what everybody needs to each wife. We don't all get a cookie-cutter experience. Then she's like, he doesn't just go, everybody gets a 4-day honeymoon. Yeah, he did. That's exactly what he did. She's like, we all get what we need. And they are all working so hard to convince themselves that this is somehow fair and required. It actually is kind of wild. And Mary goes as far as to say that sometimes they accept these things because of where they are emotionally, and other times they don't because they're selfish. That is not the case at all. But Cody's like, the length of the honeymoon was super important, and then tries to justify that it was different because they didn't have children back then, which would mean that you probably could have had a longer honeymoon back then that you really shouldn't afford yourself now. I don't get it at all. He goes on to say that they all have to have something unique and special because everybody's 4-day road trip to Oklahoma was unique and special. Got it. Their moving trip was unique and special. Yeah, there was nothing unique or special about any of that. And at some point down the line, we eventually find out, I don't remember if it's from the book or where, that Cody didn't even plan a honeymoon for Christine. He basically sort of forgot until the other wives prodded him into doing something. So he's like, I needed Robin to have a special and unique experience. It sounds super disingenuous to me. Everything that Robin has had has been unique. Everything that Robin has had has been special. That's just what it is. Robin complains that there's this promise that she'll have this sweet, loving relationship with her sister wives, and it's been yanked out from under her by the women struggling. Where have we heard that before? Certainly don't feel like I heard that in season 17 when people are ranting about knives and kidneys. No, not at all. She says she can see glimmers of hope for it because she wants this relationship as much as she wants a relationship with Cody. And Cody is making dinner by explaining that Garrison needs to make a cake while saying that he wants to make one to celebrate. That Cody wants to make one to celebrate. And he needs someone to make a salad. And he needs someone to make the french fries. And Cody and Dayton are out on the grill cooking steaks. And I really hope he timed this all correctly, or they're eating really well overdone steaks or very cold steak. Because Robin's like, one of the things that attracted me to Cody is how much he loves his wives, which is a super odd thing for me to hear because I absolutely would not want anyone to say to me that they're attracted to my husband because of how much he loves me. I know in their faith that is probably a great compliment, But outside of it, it is certainly not. She says that Cody picked each of the ladies for their strengths, and that he was each of the women for their strengths and weaknesses. I'm sorry, and he was sitting behind her, mouth open, like when she's explaining that, like he totally was confused. That's why I picked them. Sure, please go with that, Cody, because that's better. Um, And he's like, it was super important to me to be able to talk to Robin about how much I was in love with my other wives, because if she was freaked out by that, this wasn't going to work. And he's like, I don't expect people who aren't me to get me. And then he compares Robin joining the family to Truly being born. He's like, well, Truly didn't take anything from Logan by being born, so Robin doesn't take anything from anybody else. That is not a fair comparison at all, because children are not wives. I mean, seriously, that's not a fair comparison. But Robin lights up, and it's like, it's so cool how Truly and Dayton and Aurora and Brianna all came into the family at the same time. And I am reminded of her comment about how Truly has never known life without Robin, and this makes me angry. I'm not gonna lie. Because that comment later down the road makes me super angry. So the idea that she's like, this is so special and wonderful, I don't love it. But Mary compares adding another wife to labor, and how as much as there's pain, there's blessing at the end. I don't know that I would equate those two things, but you know what? I kind of understand what she's getting at. The whole episode just feels like the wives are trying to convince themselves that they're happy, that they're cool about this, and Cody and Robin are justifying taking a long honeymoon even though it hurt everyone else. Though Robin says she doesn't want to hurt anyone. Listen, I could not believe that Cody was saying some of the same things now that he said back then, because I'd completely forgotten that he had said them all the way back in 2010. But that's season 1, and we're going to get into season 2 very shortly. I'm super excited about it. I'm super excited to have brought you this video. If you haven't been checking out my shorts and you want to, I've made a couple. We did one recently. If you remember my Hey Husband ones, we did one wanting to know, do I want a sister wife? Am I actively looking for a sister wife? I also have done a couple about our desire to buy some land, and I showed you guys my seedlings that I've got growing over here in a walk-in closet. They have a UV grow light, but if I don't put my seedlings in a space where the cat can't get to, she just eats them all. And it's very sad for me. But they're right over there. In fact, you might be able to see some of the blue cast light from that closet if you try really hard. Other than that, it's just been a pretty good day, a pretty great week, and I'm pretty excited to be with you guys. And I cannot wait to get back into it with season 2. You guys spoke. I will recap Seeking Sister Wife, I suppose. We'll see how well that goes over. Some people might like it, some people might not. That's cool. Either way, if you liked this video today, you can like it, leave a comment, subscribe, whatever you want to do. I'm just happy to be here with you guys as often as I am, and I cannot wait to see you again soon. Bye!